Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average CEO Lifeline. I am joined by Bonnie Low-Kramen today. Bonnie, thank you so much for talking with us. We are talking about the ultimate assistant. Bonnie has a great deal of expertise in this area. Bonnie, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got where you are today?
Oh, sure, Nicole. Thanks for having me. This is great. For 25 years, I worked as the personal assistant to Oscar-winning actress Olympia Dukakis. And in a million years, when we first started, I never thought that it would, last 25 years, take me to 13 countries, speaking and teaching, writing 2 books, doing a TEDx talk. But for at least with me, nothing about my career really was planned or, scheduled. I have a degree in theater and English from Rutgers University in New Jersey, where I'm from. I began working with Olympia Dukakis 10 months before she became famous, before anybody knew her from the movie Moonstruck, which she did with Cher. She knew she needed help in her life to make things happen, scheduling cars and costume fittings and hair and makeup. And I knew I needed a job. And that's how it began. I didn't even know there was a title for what I was doing. She had a need and I had a set of skills. And that's how it began. And what I've come to find out, Nicole, is that a lot of assistants have gotten their jobs exactly that way. And I feel so fortunate that for 25 years, I had a front row seat, not only for fame, but for what a strong woman looks like to be in a professional setting, especially in show business. I feel like I have a master's degree in what that looks like and being inside at those meetings with important people sitting around a table, and how does a strong woman conduct herself as the CEO of her company. So when I resigned from the work, I've gone ahead and started my own training company, and I spend my life now speaking and teaching and training others how to be ultimate assistants.
Wonderful, unexpected start to a career and where you are now today. I completely can relate. I went to school for atmospheric science. I am one class shy, thanks to my daughter, in a master's in atmospheric science. But I evolved into a COO of where I am today. I rolled with it and I love it. So I can relate where you didn't know where it was going to go, and where you are today is fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about understanding when you need a professional assistant, and where can you advise our audience to start when they're looking, or when do they know they need to look for someone?
Well, it really comes down to those pesky 24 hours every day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter who you are. You, me, or the lady at the grocery store, we all get that same 24 hours, and it comes down to, what is it that we're doing with that time? How are we using it? And I speak with a lot of CEOs and leaders who are trying to puzzle this out. And the truth is, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. Somebody has to do all of those administrative tasks. And what I suggest to leaders is to think to themselves, what are the tasks you don't like to do, you don't want to do, you're not good at? And that is the beginning of a written job description for the person you want by your side doing those other tasks to make your life go smoothly. The job description is key, Nicole, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here.
Yeah.
The time and energy spent on a detailed job description that really goes into granularly what an assistant would be doing for you to take things off your plate, that will tell you, what is it, asking yourself the question, what is it that you don't have time for? You don't have time to see your friends or your family. You don't have time to go to the gym, whatever it is. You look at those 24 hours in a day and find, where is the time going? Your time is money. It's it's equivalent to money. If a carefully chosen assistant can help save a CEO 1 to 3 hours per week, that's an enormous amount of money, compounded by now the CEO has the ability to focus on the things that only the CEO can do. And frankly, this is exactly how I approached my work with Olympia Dukakis, that my work as her assistant were all the tasks that she couldn't do, that she got to do the things that only she could do. And I got to do everything else. And she loved that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like you said, you're preaching to the choir. I worked in HR for almost 15 years as a chief operating officer. So job descriptions, job ads, team culture was all, I focused on for a very long time, and seeing how it makes such a difference in retaining your employees when you set expectations right from the beginning.
Yes.
I know your work talks about it. Can you talk to us about finding that perfect assistant, but then keeping them long-term, right? And what is needed to have that retention? Because that's really an important factor too.
100%. And you said the word, it's about expectations. Mm-hmm. In my book, Staff Matters, one of the chapters is called Great Expectations. Because assistants, I know this for myself and for the assistants I train all over the world, assistants are willing to do just about anything if they're asked ahead of time, if they're given it as an expectation. The problems come, and it's not that expectations can't shift over time, because God knows they did over 25 years for me. But a conversation is needed. There needs to be a bridge between what you're currently doing and, okay, now we have some new needs. We have a new circumstance, a new situation. The problems definitely come with leaders who skip that step and go straight to, you already support 4 managers and now you get to support a 5th one without any conversation at all. It is, if in fact, we refer to the staff and we refer to assistants as the backbone of the company, the right arms to managers, the face of the culture, well, then we need to give them the respect of talking to them. It really isn't that complicated. I don't mean to be flip, but frankly, there's just not enough talking between managers and their staff, because staff are painstakingly hired in the first place. They have a set of skills, subject matter expertise. They know a lot. It's high time that we involve them in asking their opinions and having them be at meetings and having their seat at the table. That's what a business partnership looks like. And that's the key to retention, is talk to them.
I set that expectation during the first moment in an interview too, right? The moment I have the pleasure of talking to a lot of assistants or professionals who are looking to be assistants. Yeah. And setting that expectation that you need to over communicate and asking, how do you communicate? What is your communication style? Right. Is something I know I do myself, because it is extremely important. And have been an assistant myself. I know I don't want to be left in the dark. I may have a fantastic idea that someone may not have thought of, and utilizing all of your staff in knowing their strong suits and asking for feedback, I think is extremely important. So that aligned with my practice too. It's fantastic.
It makes me crazy when high-level assistants report back things like, they're being told things like, stay in your lane. I didn't ask you for an opinion. That is so detrimental to the partnership. And I think, Nicole, it's important to highlight for anyone listening that the profession globally is still 93 to 97% female.
Mm-hmm.
And females in general are not socialized to be overt about speaking truth to power. That with women especially, I love the fact that you bring this up at the beginning of your interviews about the need to speak up, because women especially need to be strongly encouraged to do that. That the best assistants out there are the ones who feel safe to speak truth to power. And that's that. And so for any male executives out there and female executives too, it's important that they know this, that women, these are talented, resourceful, intelligent, creative, resilient, mostly females doing this work. They need to be strongly encouraged to speak truth to power. Trust me on this one. What do you think, Nicole?
I agree. And it's something, I had mentioned behavioral styles. So when our assistants come on board, I teach them about behavioral styles and understanding their own and how to recognize others. So knowing that I have assistants that have a tendency to be more introverted and not speak up just naturally, setting regular communication to remind them, hey, let's talk about this, or to try and give them the avenue or that opportunity to provide feedback, to reflect, to set new expectations, new goals, is something that I preach regularly. It's not something that can just happen in the beginning and, like you said, set it, forget it. That's not how it works. It has to be this ongoing, open communication to lead to success.
But it can be magical when it works.
Yeah, it definitely can. What key attributes should CEOs or anyone hiring for an assistant, right? Because it might not just be CEOs, any executives, or sometimes even a personal assistant, right? What key attributes should they be looking for when they're looking to hire, say, the ultimate assistant?
Beyond the obvious, like organization and tech savviness, the best assistants out there are the ones who possess high EQ, emotional intelligence. They are trustworthy. They have integrity. They are fine with speaking truth to power. They're eager to learn, and they are committed to ongoing learning. These are people who know they don't know it all. They have a lot of skills, but they know that they don't know it all, and they're eager to keep exploring and stay curious in this job environment. And part of the way a CEO finds out if they have these qualities is to ask really great questions at the interview. Tell me about a time when your integrity was tested, without naming names. There's no chance that an assistant has been one for a decade, give or take, and not having and hasn't had to deal with some tricky and difficult situations. It's important that a CEO hear for him or herself how their assistant would handle such a thing. And that sometimes it varies with experience and age. I would urge CEOs to not dismiss assistants too quickly based on, appearances or something the resume says. Ask for yourself. I really think that this pandemic that happened in 2020 changed us, Nicole. What I see in my rooms of workshops is that assistants may have been doing this work for a very long time, but there's a lot about this new workplace in 2024, heading into 2025, that is new. There's a lot about what we're dealing with, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but there's a lot of new aspects to it, not the least of which is the remote and hybrid workplace. So there's adjustments, there's resilience that's needed. And so there's a lot of situational questions that could be asked to really help understand what kind of person is sitting in front of you. And then, of course, kindness goes a long way.
Kindness very much goes a long way. And I 100% agree with you about seeing a shift. I think the shift in my mind happened probably last summer. Mid 2023, things definitely shifted in a big way. What assistants are capable of, even, whether it's remote or not, technology is at their fingertips, and learning is at your fingertips, and expansion. I definitely have seen a very large shift. So I would agree with you.
Yeah. And that's going to be the difference between those who continue working and those who will be downsized and laid off. It really is, as never before, there's a need for ongoing training. AI, this whole thing with artificial intelligence and Copilot and ChatGPT, we weren't talking about that last summer.
No,
No,
we weren't. And that's the landscape definitely had a shift, and it was coming, right? You could feel this. I can work virtual. I can work hybrid. What do I want? This shift was coming since the pandemic.
Yeah. But given that we're talking about virtual assistants, I think it's really important to note that many CEOs decided to not have any more brick and mortar, that no more buildings, that everybody was going to work remote. Awesome. So you've got assistants who are working hundreds of miles, thousands of miles apart. What CEOs are finding that is valuable to spend money on now are plane tickets, that there is a need to bring human beings together in a room somehow, some way, whether it's once a quarter, once every 6 months. The humanity of the work, the nature of the fact that it's people working with other people. Yes, a team can be highly productive remotely, for sure. And there is great added value to being in rooms together. So CEOs are putting their mind on that.
I agree. And I don't think it has to be one or the other, right? There are conferences and networking and some touch points in person that you just cannot get virtually, right? There's a different level of connection.
Yes.
So this hybrid, whatever you foresee it being, is important. It's important to note and important to think about, and how we move into the future of assistance, and what AI does to this role.
And I think CEOs will benefit from asking their assistants and the team around them, what do they think? What are their opinions about this? Because no one has all the answers right now. I mean, that's what I'm reading and hearing every single day, is that companies are experimenting. They're playing around with, hey, let's go into the office Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and be at home Mondays and Fridays. How does that work for everybody? And, there's the CEOs and HR folks who are the most flexible and open-minded about what's going to work for these people. It's not one size fits all. Flexibility is winning the day. I'm going on the record here and saying that.
Flexibility is something I talk about. My team will tell you they're tired of hearing me say that word, but it's important. It is something that
totally
you have to have. And if you say no to everything and there's this rigid structure, it just doesn't work.
Well, it chases people away.
It does, right? If it's important for me to take my daughter XYZ, and you say, nope, you got to be here at this meeting. We're not able to change it because of, what is that doing for my morale? And I'm hoping my next question can lead you to, what can CEOs or business owners do to keep their staff motivated? What can they do to keep them productive and, importantly, engaged, whether they're in person or virtual? I don't think that really matters.
It really doesn't. It's about looking at the staff as individual contributors. It's about holding on to individuality and their individual people. So what does that mean? Writing a personal handwritten note of thanks, calling someone out to give credit in a meeting, to remember somebody's name. The staff notes these things. During the pandemic, the CEO would make it a habit. One CEO would call the staff on the phone just to see how are you doing? How's the family? Do you need anything? The future is going to be about leaders who show that they actually care about their staff and treat them as human beings. And that it means regular feedback, not just once a year feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Does this take time and energy? It absolutely does. But if we're looking for employee retention, staff, I did a TEDx talk and it's called The Real Reasons People Quit. And the top 4 things that people want is to feel respected, valued / acknowledged, given fair compensation, and offered continuous opportunities to keep learning. And it's not one size fits all. I think the future workplace is going to be about treating people as unique individuals. That's the key to keeping them.
The growing a large virtual business, that is something I kept in mind the entire time. And I want to give advice. I don't think I've given this advice on the podcast just yet. Small teams to make sure things are kept on an individual level is something that I have implemented. No more than 5 to 6 with a supervisor. Outside of that, I found it was too quick, right? We were too quick to say, okay, I have to talk to someone else, or let me put it on my schedule to have a one-on-one. And small individualized meetings to connect with your staff, get to know them on an individual basis and what they want from the job. What is important to them, because it's going to be different to everyone. I have staff members who want to be in a leadership role. And then I have staff members who it's just important that they cannot work on a Tuesday so that they can do whatever they want to do. So getting to know your staff and small teams is something that
what's important to them.
Yeah.
Because what's important to you, Nicole, is different than someone else on the team. Mm-hmm. And as a leader, I need to know what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, my assistant and I have been working together for 13 years. And every Zoom call starts with, how's the family? What's going on? I want to know and need to know. It's important that we have vulnerability with one another. I think that's certainly a key to leadership.
So our title of our podcast, as you know, is Not Your Average CEO. Can you tell our listeners what you feel is one of the most important pieces of advice for someone to hear sitting in this seat?
After all of these years of working, what I have come to, and I read it on LinkedIn, I read it in blogs, it's about the value and of leading with kindness, humanity, and vulnerability, as opposed to leading with intimidation, humiliation, bullying, strong-arming people. The truth is, good guys and gals do finish first. You don't have to be a jerk. Now, in the short term, might that seem like it works? It might, but it really doesn't for the long term. And it is in this post-pandemic world, it's coming clearer and clearer that we cannot lose sight of the humanity of, those people. Companies cannot run without the people employed by them. And my advice to leaders would be to take better care of the people already on your payroll.
Now, my next question may be similar to your answer, but I'm seeing if you have a twist to it. What does not your average CEO mean to you?
I thought about this, and I love the title. I love the fact that you're committed to telling CEOs things that they may not know already, and which is why I wrote my book, Staff Matters. That was exactly why I wrote it. It's what people are saying about you behind your back. That it is human nature to repeat what the leader says. Hey, did you hear what, I had a conversation with the CEO and this is what he said. It's very juicy to report back to the rest of the team. What did the CEO do? Things like, he remembered my name. She actually showed up at my father's funeral. She called me on the phone when I was ill and wanted to know how I was. You're not average if you go above and beyond and take time to treat people just like people. And a lot of people assume that the CEO has no time, is so busy, and they are. But Hubert Joly of Best Buy, he used to walk the floor at Best Buy and just to talk with the team. Doug Conan of Campbell Soup did exactly the same thing. I think it is not old school to care, and that's what. If you don't want to be average, give a damn.
Very well said, Bonnie. Thank you so much for joining us. I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you, and I know our audience will too, and find your information so valuable.
I hope so, Nicole. Thank you. We need to do better.
Yeah, we do. I will put everything in the show notes, including your talk and your book. Can you tell everyone where they can find more from you, please?
Right. My website, bonnielowkramen.com, and LinkedIn. As a writer, first and foremost, I post a lot of articles on LinkedIn and my blog, and I have a lot of opinions. And so if you're interested in more like this, I urge you to connect with me on LinkedIn and to check out my website. I'm very excited to fix what's broken in our workplace. So why don't we do it together?
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you, Nicole, so much.